It's about that time. CityViews. What's happening in your
Hello,
city?
everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of CityViews. We are so extremely happy to have here today. This interview we set up a couple weeks ago. However, it is even more relevant and pertinent to be talking to this gentleman this afternoon. I have here with us the chief of the Torrington Police Department, Mr. Bill Baldwin.
Good afternoon,
Bill,
Jack.
thank you for taking time out of your terribly busy schedule to talk to our CityViews audience today.
It's a pleasure to be here. I hope we can come to some understandings, and hopefully we can educate some of your people about the things that are going on.
Well, I think the key word there is education, because in this very turbulent time, I think we all could use a little education, because when these things happen, you know, we're all very passionate about these issues. And I think sometimes we need to take a step back and just examine just where we're coming from, just so we can get an idea of where we're headed. And there's a few topics that I would like you to address today, Chief, that will hopefully help us with our objective that you just mentioned in educating us on how we can improve the situation. Talk to us a little bit about some of the reforms that you think are necessary to implement, or that you have already implemented in improving the relations between the community and the police department.
Okay, well, first I want to just say that obviously one of the reasons why we're talking about all this is because of that extremely troubling video that was released that depicted the actions of several Minneapolis police officers that resulted in Mr. Floyd's death. The actions of those officers, both individually, collectively, were reprehensible and demonstrated this level of illegality, inhumanity, depravity that is unacceptable on every level. Every Torrington police officer shares this view. Police officers recognize the significant responsibility that we owe to the community. It's much more than public safety. We as a police department in this area recognize the value of human life. You know, we're committed to respecting human rights and the dignity of every individual, and the constitutional, moral, and ethical right for everyone to be treated with respect, fairness, and impartiality. We're devoted as the Torrington Police Department in this community to instill confidence, compassion, and trust that we work so hard to achieve over the years. And unfortunately, the actions of one animal has really set us back decades. It's our role, and it's our goal, it's my goal, to continue to foster and develop relationships within our community. I've always had an open door with members of the community, the clergy staff within our town, and anybody else that would wish to reach out to me. As a result of this, we're seeing different changes taking place as to the way police officers are going to be conducting business on a regular basis going forward. I'm a member of the CPCA, which is the Connecticut Chiefs of Police Association. We are constantly discussing collectively the things that we need to do to ensure that things like what happened with Mr. Floyd and others don't happen again. The concern we have is that the standards regarding use of force, and especially the ultimate unfortunate deadly use of force, has to be dealt with very, very delicately for not only the safety of our citizens and the people that we interact with on a regular and daily basis, but for the officers as well. Our officers go out there on a regular basis, daily speaking or daily interacting and coming into contact with individuals. And unfortunately, because we're dealing with human beings and because we're of society, not every individual that we come in contact with are nice people. Not every individual that we come in contact with are willing to be compliant, are willing to listen to the orders or instructions of officers that are given. Unfortunately, we have people out there that are bad people, and there are people that want to confront officers and want to deal with and don't want to deal with a proper and successful conclusion to the reason why the officer may be out there in the first place. When we get called to a complaint or we get called to a situation, we're being called because there's a problem. We're being called because something is going on within a residence, within a business, within a community, within a street corner. It's because a citizen is concerned about what's going on out there, and we get contacted to respond, to address, to look for, and to address the issue. And it's all in the name of public safety, not specifically, or I should say specifically for the community, but also more specifically for the individual that is committing the act. Number one, we want to make sure that that individual is that the actions that he is taking or whatever it is that may raise to the level of our involvement, that he is being informed as to why we're being contacted, and that we can help change his way or his mannerisms so that he's not committing these acts anymore. Generally, that's how it works. I mean, that's what the community policing aspect is all about. Our officers make contact with individuals. They go out and they discuss the situation. They, as an example, if we're going to a park and an individual is acting inappropriately and we receive a call, we address that individual. Our goal is not to automatically is not to automatically make an arrest or to take somebody into custody. Our goal is to diffuse a situation and to make sure that the person to whom we are, the subject of to whom we are responding to is aware of why we're there. There may be a reasonable, many times there's a reasonable explanation for the actions of an individual. And generally, the officers leave shaking hands with that individual. The individual is educated as to why we were there, educated as to what the law states, educated as to what he can or can't do. And generally, people don't understand that or realize that. And this individual, once the interaction is over, it's complete. They move on, and that person has been educated as to any future situations or any future events to avoid our interaction with them. So our officers are constantly out there trying to diffuse situations in every means and manner. So when I said earlier about us talking about dealing with these types of things delicately, with all the incidences that are taking place across our country, what's concerning to many chiefs is the potential inactions of officers that can cause harm to themselves and or the individuals that we are sworn to serve and protect. What we're concerned about is with all of the let's face it. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking that goes on in these types of situations. People see a short clip of a video, make a determination as to what happened without seeing the full picture and without seeing what led to an unfortunate event, whether it be a use of force or a deadly use of force. And what we're concerned about is that we still have due process in this country. We're still a country of laws, and there's a concern that officers, because of what's going on, may be somewhat reluctant to take the actions that are necessary to save life and or protect himself from any kind of an individual. So to your question about what am I doing and what are the things that we're doing to try and bring people together, is that I've had the when I first came here as the chief, several people have reached out to me, and the two individuals that have reached out to me from the beginning is in Gaza and Effie, and these two individuals who run, who are in charge or who are the leaders of the Our Culture is Beautiful organization, have reached out on different occasions to discuss issues of mutual concern within the African American community and within the community in general, and have come up with just have dialogue so that we can contact one another if there's any issues or concerns. Up until the George Floyd incident, we've not really had too much interaction, but we've both known, myself, and Gaza and Effie, we've both known that we are available and we have the ability to communicate and to contact each other should there be any issues within our respective communities, or with my profession and within their community. After the George Floyd incident, we've obviously been in contact a heck of a lot more on an excellent, positive basis. I support them and what they're doing, and we're going to continue to sit down as a group, and we're going to discuss some of the issues that they have concerns about regarding police officers and what we do on a regular basis. And I'm going to listen to what some of the issues and some of the things that are taking place on their level and what they're hearing from the people that are supporting them and the people that are part of their group.
Well, your predecessor was very involved in police community activities, and I think that is a legacy that he's turned over to you in terms of how receptive the community is willing to be in terms of having those conversations and improving that communication so that there's a reduced level of tension and an increased level of trust from the police department to the community. Another thing that I wanted to ask you, Chief, but before we get to that question, just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and when you started your tenure as the Chief of Police of Torrington Police Department.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I actually was one of the youngest officers to be hired by the Torrington Police Department back in 1983. I started off here. I'm a resident. I have been a resident of the city of Torrington. My family was born and raised in this town. After about 4 years with the Torrington Police Department, I joined the Connecticut State Police, and I was with them for about 32 years, attaining the rank of lieutenant, which was a commanding officer. My final assignment was Troop B in North Canaan, where I commanded, where I was the commanding officer we recovered 13 towns out of Troop B. There was a turnover in the Torrington Police Department, and I applied for the position and have come back full circle to be the chief here. I started off here, and I will more than likely be ending off my law enforcement career here at the Torrington Police Department. Throughout the state police, I've done many, many different things. I was the commanding officer, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, officer of the counterterrorism, Connecticut intelligence, major crime squads. I was involved significantly with the Sandy Hook investigation and many other unfortunate and serious crimes within the state of Connecticut. So yeah, that's about it in a nutshell. So,
Chief, that's a lot.
Well, it would take the rest of this program. So, but that's it in a brief.
Well, as we've shared on a personal basis in our brief conversations before, when I first met you, you impressed me to be a person of integrity and a person who lives the badge. And I think that Torrington is lucky to have someone of your ilk in this position at this particular time. So I just want to let those sentiments be known to you from me as the host of the show. But I know that your time is very valuable and running short. But if you have time for just a few more questions, I wanted to get your insights. The big talk around a lot of circles are centered around quote unquote defunding the police. Now, this has come to mean different things to different people. What does it mean to you? And can you talk to our audience a little bit about what the proponents of this are trying to communicate and what some of the cons might be in this initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think some of the biggest problems in the law enforcement field has been the lack of funding for our departments. We continuously attempt to try and increase our budgets on a regular basis, all for the purpose of serving our community much better. When President Obama put out the 21st Century Policing guidelines, a lot of what that entailed is community policing. There were actually I would encourage people to look it up. It's actually a great document as it relates to the way policing should be in the 21st century. Now that's going to be changed again because of the incidents that happened. But as I was saying, that the big thing is the community policing aspect. And I think you mentioned at the onset, at the beginning of our program here, that you talked about community policing. That's a huge part of what we do as law enforcement. And my goal had been to increase. I have one community policing officer that is extremely busy trying to deal with and get out into the community on a regular basis to assist them in any way and any means necessary. Many bigger departments have a community policing organization or a community policing unit that consists of several officers where they are constantly going into the public and dealing with business owners and dealing with the schools and going into neighborhoods and doing neighborhood watch programs and really interacting on a personal level with members of our community. Of course, these types of things take money. It takes funding, you know, officers on a regular basis are tasked with doing more and more with less and less, and and chiefs and administrators, recognizing this, are doing everything they can to increase the funding for the ability to do more with more officers, which is going to lead to a plethora of good things: lower crime stats, higher visibility, safer communities. When you when you think about defunding the police department, basically in any budget, in any police-related budget, the largest line item is salary and salary and benefits. When you start defunding the police department, what that boils down to it boils down to personnel and losing personnel. The operating part of the budget is small compared to the actual wage line item of the budget. The operating budget would be things like equipment, cruisers, things along that line. But you need people to do that. So when you think about defunding people or defunding departments or deconstructing departments, it really it's going to lead to, quite honestly, it's going to lead to disastrous consequences. It's going to lead to a lack of services. It's going to lead to the point where officers are not going to be available on the street or on the patrols to cover their specific sectors, because if I have to reduce manpower as a result of lower funding, that means less people on the road. That means less officers to be able to go and respond to calls for service, which means now I'm going to have to prioritize what's important. And the thing is that to a victim, a stolen car is as extremely important to a victim. If it's your car being stolen, that means that means an awful lot to you, as much as an individual being assaulted. Now it's kind of it's kind of an apples and oranges thing, but we're talking about two different crimes. So when you look at both of them on a level, which is the more heinous, is obviously the assault. So the officers are now going to, so instead of tying officers up on a stolen car complaint, you're going to be concerned about making sure officers are available to deal with the more serious crimes, like the assaults, like the robberies, even burglaries for that matter. Burglaries are situations that could occur after the fact. An individual may be working or away from home, his house gets broken into. Now, that's not a crime in progress. So is that going to be a crime that I'm going to have to evaluate and say, well, all right, there's nobody's in danger. Somebody did break into the house. They took some stuff. And am I going to have to evaluate whether or not how we investigate that, Are we going to send officers to that complaint? Because I'm going to need officers for more serious and more heinous crimes. But to that victim, to that person who's paying taxes, to that person who is a supporter of law enforcement and police departments, they're going to want an officer there. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just giving you examples of what it means when you have less people. You have to start prioritizing the way we respond to calls for service. What ultimately what happens is that the community in large, as a whole, they're going to suffer. They're going to suffer as a result of the lack of our ability to perform the essential functions that we've been sworn to uphold and to protect and to do on a regular basis.
Chief, I hear you loud and clear. I think some of these proposals, as extreme as they may sound, do at least offer us an opportunity to discuss some of these issues in a way in which we can kind of assess the situation a little more clearly. And although I don't think that, that is, a very good idea, I do think that it kind of reinforces the aspect of community policing that appeals to people. And I think once you can tie that component back into the mix, that's one way that we can reduce the anxiety and the tensions enough to the point where people can start to rebuild the trust in our local police officials.
You couldn't have said it any better, Jacque. That's exactly it. Community policing is the key component of rebuilding trust and to building trust within a community and to interact with our police officers. When I came, we had stopped doing the Citizens Police Academy for a period of time. When I came here, I wanted to, that was one of my priorities, is to start the Citizens Police Academy again. Unfortunately, this year, because of the COVID crisis and all the other things that are going on, I'm not sure we're going to be able to do a Citizens Police Academy, but that's exactly what the community policing aspect is to bring people into our department as a group to see what our officers do on a regular basis, to see what our officers do day in and day out, so that they can be educated. And most people that come out of a Citizens Police Academy, they're so impressed with what we do and have no idea what we do on a regular basis. And it's such a wonderful way and such a great example of what community policing is all about, because it really does give people a real hands-on insight to what we do on a regular basis.
I totally agree. We used to have an event. We were hoping that it would turn into an annual event, but unfortunately we didn't have the resources to continue it. But it was a Torrington Police Day, in which we got together in someone's backyard and barbecued some chicken and invited the guys over, and they talked to the people that were in attendance there. And, I do honestly believe that there is a give and take on both sides that needs to happen if we're going to get to the next level in terms of having a whole peaceful, tranquil community.
I agree with you. I agree.
But I think the emphasis on education that you spoke of when we started our interview, Chief, is that's where we need to stay with this, because if we can continue to engage and can continue to create platforms where we can discuss these very important issues, I believe that can forge new relationships. And who knows, from that, you might be able to get new recruits for the department.
Well, you know what? The education thing, when we talk of education, is not just on the community side of the education, but it's on the law enforcement side of education too. We need to be educated also. And one of the things that we're looking into as we make changes and we look to the future as to how are we going to train officers in the academies. We need to go back into our history, and we need to go back and see how groups were treated unfairly, and we need to be educated as to these things that were going on. I don't think, unfortunately, when you talk about those horrible times of the Jim Crowe laws and things of that nature, I don't think our young officers understand exactly what that was all about, and we need to start. We need to be educated as well. We need to also have the ability and have the knowledge of, when we go into communities, the diversities, the different types of cultures out there. We need to be able to understand these cultures and understand all of us, so that we can better deal with individuals on a regular basis. I think it's not just educating our community, but it's also about us being educated as well. Police officers being educated as well.
Well, Chief, once again, you have revealed to me a part of your character that I can't help but place more confidence in your ability to carry out this position. So I thank you. On behalf of the City Views production team, we thank you. We hope that we might be able to have a conversation with you in the future so that we can assess the progress that you're making in terms of implementing these very important strategies to heal our community.
Well, thank you, Jacque. I'm looking forward to it. I know it's a challenge, and I tell you, I think there's some good people that, as myself and some others within our community, move forward and look to our future. I think we're going to be able to come up with some great ideas. I can tell you, our legislature right now is looking at some changes in the way we do some policing. Our state representative, Michelle Cook, is very active in some of these proposals. She's been a great proponent of ours and of all of ours. I mean, she looks at the entire community as a whole. She looks at the services that are being provided, and she's looking at what's going to be the best results to any kind of legislation for all of us. So I'm looking forward to working with her. Our Mayor Carbone, is also a huge proponent of making sure that we educate, and that we're in part. She's huge in education, and she wants to make sure that her police department is taking care of the needs of our community. So we definitely got some support on the government side, and we definitely have some support with the Our Culture is Beautiful group and others. The clergy, I'm going to be in touch with members of the clergy and discuss with them as well some of the things that we can do. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to dialoguing with the members of this community, because we really do have a great community here in the Northwest Hills.
Well, if you're looking for some grassroots support, I think we can maybe even provide that for you too, Chief.
I'm sure we could.
On behalf of Dan, I know he knows what I'm talking about. Fund the police.
There we go. Well,
it might be a different analogy on the national level, but in terms of what we're doing here in our community, you got our support, Chief.
Well, Jacque, thank you so much. And I do feel it. Our officers are out there, and there are people within our community that are coming up to them, thanking them for what they do under these difficult times, difficult circumstances. Look, we're all disgusted by what's happening, what's going on, and our guys are just they keep plugging along. I'm very proud of this department, very proud of the men and women who work so hard to really make a difference in our community, and we continue to address the issues as they come before us.
Is there any way that I can reserve a spot with Officer Simon to take a ride on his little right there?
Yeah,
that's the cool thing in town, man. It's like, how can you have any animosity toward the police when you see that dude coming?
Maybe we could put you on the handlebars or something like that.
I would love that. I would love that. Don't be telling me that, because I'll be coming knocking on your door.
Officer Simon does a great job too. He's my community policing guy, and he really does yeoman's work out there.
Absolutely does, as do all your officers. Chief. We appreciate your leadership.
Thank you, Jacque. I really appreciate the time, and I appreciate you reaching out. And as always, don't hesitate to reach out to me with any issues or concerns.
Great. We look forward to talk to you real soon here.
Same here. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Bill Baldwin of the Torrington Police Department, doing it, hitting it out the park, y'all. You guys stay tuned. We'll be coming back with some more stuff. In the meantime, for now,
It's about that time.
peace out.
CityViews. What's happening in your city? CityViews. You got love for your city? CityViews. City.